Chapter 17, Journey to Egypt. Under the faint light of a crescent moon in the dark sky, the figures of the Holy Family could barely be discerned as they set out on their long journey. Mary tenderly carrying the infant in her arms atop a mule, and Joseph steadfastly leading them away from the shelter of the cave. Their silhouettes merged with the quiet night as they began the arduous trek ahead. After several days on the road, their travels brought them to the outskirts of Gaza. There, amid the dusty streets and the weary clamor of travel, Mary observed Joseph stumbling from sheer fatigue. The mule, too, had grown tired and stubbornly refused to move any further. Gently, Mary addressed him. "Joseph, you are in need of rest, and this poor beast of burden will not make another day without the same consideration. Let us stop here in Gaza for a day or two. We would be welcomed at the home of my cousin Elizabeth's old friend Myrta. She is alone now that her husband has left her a widow. She tends the ill in the village, and I could assist her while you rest." Their temporary sojourn led them to the modest dwelling of Myrta, an elderly woman whose kindly hands had long cared for the sick. In one of her cramped chambers, two very ill children lay on a narrow cot, their faces deathly pale and their labored breaths barely audible. Myrta consoled the distraught parents, saying, "There is nothing more that I can do. Keep them comfortable with this herb. It will ease their cough and help them breathe without pain." While Myrta spoke, Mary knelt at the bedside of the ailing children. Drawing a cloth from her sash of a robe, she dipped it into a nearby basin. With tender care, she wiped the lips and foreheads of each child, then took their small hands and gently pressed them to her cheek as she murmured silent prayers. Gradually, the color began to return to their cheeks, and their ragged breathing quieted. In the midst of their relief, the father cried out in despair, "They breathe no longer!" While the mother lamented, "My children, my children!" Mary reassured them softly, "No, come, look. They have not left you. They responded well to the remedy. Children, open your eyes. Show your worried parents that you feel better." Then beckoning Myrta, she added, "Let us leave this happy moment, for we have yet more to see." Myrta, her expression a mixture of pleasure and confusion, responded, "Yes, more to see." Tucking the bottle of medicine back into her apron, Myrta then offered, "Perhaps you do not need this after all. Come, Mary, I have someone who cannot move her limbs to walk. You could rub some salve on them." And with that, the pair left to continue the day's labor. Soon, Mary and Myrta found themselves at the home of another patient, a middle-aged woman named Helen. Crippled from birth with withered, useless legs. In a small, cluttered, and unclean hut, Helen lay upon a worn mat. Myrta cautioned, "Mind you, do not take a deep breath in here, for I do not know what disease floats about. I come once a week to see that she has clean clothes at least." Producing a bundle of freshly laundered garments from her satchel, Myrta set about helping Helen. Mary joined her at the woman's side. From her own apron, Mary withdrew a small bottle, removed its lid, and poured a measured amount of liquid into her cupped hands. With gentle strokes, she caressed the woman's face and then massaged the liquid into Helen's withered legs. Miraculously, as if touched by divine grace, the limbs slowly regained their shape and strength. Overwhelmed, Myrta fell to her knees in wonder, exclaiming, "Who art thou, blessed woman? What powers God has given you?" Mary replied softly, "What faith he has granted you that you might be permitted to see that which is hidden. Remain quiet, dear Myrta, for my family is here but for a day. It would not be right to spread these wonders too widely." Myrta promised, "I will stay and help this one clean up her hut. Now that she can walk, she can assist me in caring for the others. You must return to your family." With heartfelt gratitude, Mary excused herself, and as she left, the healed woman knelt and repeatedly kissed Mary's hands. Not long after, Mary's journey led her to the steps of a nearby temple. Outside, beside a crumbling wall, several homeless people gathered in desperate supplication for food. Unafraid of their plight, Mary found herself encircled by the poor and hungry. A begging man pleaded, "Please, my child has no food for 2 days now. Do you have something to spare?" A small, tearful voice joined him. "Food, Papa, food." A woman nearby lamented, "Our neighbors are nothing but rats that scavenged by the barrel of grain. Please spare something for the little ones." One of the men watching cautioned, "Be wary, they might just bite your hand." The group laughed, and a small child, undeterred, rushed forward to hug the man, only to be shooed away by a shaking leg. Mary knelt down beside the child, scooped her up, and comforted her tenderly. Turning the child toward the men, she spoke in a gentle yet insistent tone. "Look into her eyes. You see the hunger there. Place your hand upon her. Feel that fragility of her small frame. If your own son were this hungry and you could not feed him, would you not pray for another's kindness? The food you cast aside each meal is more than this child has seen in an entire week. What keeps her from your table? I see compassion in your eyes. Now is the time, kind sir. Now is the time." Moved by her words, one man offered a few coins from his pouch, and another wrapped his arms around a destitute parent, urging them to follow him. With that, Mary set the child down, knelt before the parents, and blessed their hands in gratitude. After several days of healing and humble service, the Holy Family prepared to resume their journey. At Myrta's modest home, Mary mounted the mule once more as Joseph handed her the infant, saying gratefully, "Thank you again, Myrta, for your kindness. Though I mostly slept these last few days, I am thankful that my beloved had a wise and a caring companion." Myrta smiled warmly. "Oh, it is I who am most thankful. Now be safe in the desert. Where are you headed, did you say?" Mary replied, "Not far, Myrta. And Joseph was right. Your wisdom has been a true blessing on this short visit. God be with you." Myrta answered, "And with you, my blessed friend." And with that they parted ways. The Holy Family pressed onward into the vast, unyielding expanse of the desert of Bersabe in Palestine. February's chill gripped the air, and the desert stretched endlessly before them, a sea of barren sands offering no refuge, no solace. The wind howled like a wild beast, its furious gusts whipping through the emptiness, drowning out even the voices of Joseph and Mary as they tried to speak. The storm seemed alive, its whispers carrying the airy weight of the void. Then, through the swirling chaos, a small foothill emerged in the distance, a faint promise of shelter. Joseph's voice cut through the tempest, urging and determined. "There, over there, we'll find cover." The infant's cries pierced the air, fragile yet insistent, as Mary fought to shield her child from the relentless stinging winds. She dismounted the mule, its weary steps faltering under Joseph's lead, and pressed forward on foot. One arm cradled her newborn, the other stretched ahead, fingers clawing through the storm as if to part its fury. Step by step they pushed toward the hillside, the wind's roar growing muffled as they neared the shelter. Finally they reached the lee of the hill, and the tempest rage softened to a murmur. Mary sank to the ground, her body trembling, but her hands steady as she soothed her child. "Hush now, my little one," she whispered, her voice a tender balm against the chaos. The baby's cries quieted, replaced by the soft sounds of nursing. A faint smile touched Mary's lips as she gazed down at him. "How hungry you were, my poor lamb," she murmured. She turned to Joseph, her voice gentle but firm. "Sleep, Joseph. I'll keep watch." Joseph, his strength spent, nodded weakly and slumped against the hillside. His head rested on their meager bundle of belongings, his breathing slow and heavy. Mary watched him for a moment, then turned her gaze back to her child, now peaceful in slumber. Her heart ached with the weight of their journey, yet it also swelled with a quiet, unyielding hope. The desert stretched endlessly around them, but in that moment, within the shelter of the hill, there was a fragile peace. As the Holy Family pressed deeper into their journey to Egypt, they trudged over 100 grueling miles across the desert of Beersheba. Each day stretched endlessly, the sun blazing overhead and the nights offering little respite. Mary and Joseph sustained themselves with nothing more than a single meager meal, eaten late at night after hours of exhausting travel. The elements showed no pity, and one night a savage storm descended upon them with unrelenting fury. Rain lashed down in sheets, and the wind howled like a vengeful spirit, tearing at their already battered spirits. Mary, though steadfast in her faith, could not shield her child from the storm's wrath without invoking divine power. The rain soaked through her garments, clinging to her skin like a second icy layer. Her arms trembled as she cradled the infant, his tiny body wrapped in drenched, swaddling cloth. He shivered violently, his cries piercing the night, sharp and desperate at first, then growing faint, as if his strength was ebbing away. Mary's heart clenched with terror as she felt the chills seeping into his fragile form. She gazed down at his pale face, her own tears mingling with the rain, and a fierce maternal defiance surged within. Lifting her eyes to the raging heavens, her voice above the storm, raw and commanding, "I command you, wind and rain, do not afflict my child, the only begotten Son of God. If you must unleash your fury, turn it upon me, for I am unworthy beside him." Her words rang out, a desperate plea wrapped in the authority of a mother's love. The storm seemed to hesitate, its fury momentarily stilled, as if the very elements had paused to heed her cry. Mary clutched her child close, her body trembling, not from the cold, but from the weight of her sacrifice. In that moment, she was both vulnerable and unyielding, a beacon of devotion in the face of nature's wrath. In response to her plea, a luminous globe of light encircled the child in her arms. So moved by his mother's love, Jesus requested that the army of angels accompanying them enlarge the globe of light to encompass both Mary and Joseph. This miracle sustained the Holy Family, through many trials on their long, treacherous journey to Egypt. At long last, the Holy Family arrived in Egypt, their weary steps carrying them into the land shadowed by darkness. Many of its people were ensnared, their souls bound by the sinister grip of Lucifer and his malevolent ministers. Yet as Mary and Joseph entered the towns, a quiet but profound power stirred within their midst. The infant Jesus, cradled in his mother's arms, lifted his tiny eyes and hands towards the heavens, his gaze fixed on his heavenly Father. Though no words passed his lips, his silent plea resonated with divine urgency, a call for mercy, for deliverance, for the salvation of those trapped in despair. Mary, ever attuned to her son's sacred mission, joined him in this unspoken prayer. Her heart, heavy with compassion, beat in unison with his as she offered her own supplication. Together their silent cries rose like a beacon of light, piercing the veil of darkness that hung over the land. In that moment, the air itself seemed to tremble with the weight of their devotion, as if heaven itself leaned closer to hear their plea. The infant's tiny hands, raised in innocence and power, became a symbol of hope, a promise that even in the bleakest of places, the light of salvation could not be extinguished. The dark Egyptian skies soon roiled with the storm clouds. Lightning thrashed and evil spirits being cast from the bodies of the downtrodden. Idols shattered, altars crumbled, and temples fell into ruin as the divine power swept through the land. The Egyptian people, astonished by these inexplicable happenings, began to rebuild their towns. Amid the chaos, the strangers, the Holy Family, stepped forward to help. As they labored alongside the locals, Mary began to speak of the prophecies of Isaiah. Was it not foretold that the Messiah, King of the Jews, would come, and that the idol temples would be destroyed? There is but one true God, the creator of all life's mysteries. Look upon your Son. Do you not marvel at his perfection? So young, yet full of reason and strength. And you, mistress, when you wash your clothes in the river, do you not wonder at the life-giving flow that sustains your family? He, the one and only creator of heaven and earth, fashioned all with beauty and purpose out of love for you all. The crowds gathered to hear her speak and to witness the miracles, the cleansing of demons from idols and possessed bodies, the curing of grievous illnesses, all aided by the fervent prayers of her Son. At last their arduous journey came to an end when the family settled in the town of Heliopolis. They made their home in a humble 3-roomed abode. One room became a sanctuary for the infant Jesus under Mary's care. Another was reserved as Joseph's sleeping chamber, and the last served as his modest carpentry workshop. During these trying times, Joseph found work scarce and often faced rejection, while Mary, gifted as a seamstress, gathered sewing, worked from house to house. In their small home, from the break of dawn until nightfall, Mary labored not only for their daily needs, but also attended tenderly to Jesus and supported Joseph. In quiet moments in the nursery, Mary knelt in prayer, a soft light radiating from her heart and that of her Son, a sacred communion soon joined by a third light from above, as the God of all spoke with them. Thus, amid hardship and divine wonder, the Holy Family's journey continued, a testament to faith, resilience, and transformative power of love that would forever change the course of human destiny.